also want to say a big thank you for coming here and hearing you speak. I have a little bit more of an academic question for you. I think that a lot of people know what happened to the Jews in Poland and Hungary and the rest of Europe, but for some reason, there seems to be a very lack of knowledge of what happened to the Jews of Belarus and the Ukraine or the Baltics.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Belarus, I came back to Belarus, and I wanted to change some monuments, because when I came the first time, I was very hurt. That was big Stalin's monuments, and on my grave was written down that my mother was killed because she was a Russian citizen. And I argued with them. She was killed because she was a Jewess and so on. And they gave me permission to change it. And then they invited me, I should give a talk in Russia, in my town, about what happened. And a lot of people turned up. And I said, first of all, do you know how many Jews lived in this town? And most of the young people stood up, 500, 600. When I told them we were 50% of the town, they couldn't believe it. And I told them about cooperation between the Belarusian people and the Germans at the beginning of the war. And then I started thanking them, because without the Belarusian people, they wouldn't be able to survive. You can't have a group of 1,230 Jews moving about at this moment from place to place unless you got some cooperation. Of course, half the cooperation is because they were afraid. But half the cooperation was they didn't want us to die. They felt something for the people which lived there. This could never, ever happen in Lithuania or Ukraine or in in Poland, because for one reason only, because the Belarusian people were not nationalistic people. There was never had a country, in fact. They never spoke Belarusian only between them. There was no such a... In Minsk, when you came, you never heard Belarusian, you heard Russian. And the territory was right. The forestry was right. And that's how we survived.
Rabbi Yosef?
One of the most incredible features of the story of survival was how 1,200 Jews survived, notwithstanding these incredibly difficult conditions. You mentioned before that more and more customers wanted to join the Belsky group in order to survive. Two questions. Number one, how would you describe the incentive, the motive for the Belsky group or brothers to take on saving other Jews when their own survival was at stake? And number two, if there was opposition, which you mentioned before, there was opposition from some of the people to, in fact, take these people on, how did the Belsky brothers deal with that opposition?
The first meeting which they've had, they formed a name for the partisan, the Zhukov partisan. Then, if you've seen the film, they've met this Russian group, anti-Semitic group, and they said, look, they are Russian partisan Zhukov, but they didn't have enough people. So they had to bring in people from the ghettos and so on to form a force. And once a chain effect started, you couldn't stop. People came to the camp, you couldn't throw them out. What will you do with them? It comes a Jewish family, what will you do with them? You can't let them starve. You must protect them. If you are moving from one place to another, you can't leave them behind. If you are digging winter quarters, you can't leave them -20 to see children or elderly people to freeze to death. So you dig for them as well. And so it moved on. By the time it was 1,230 people.
I'll be accused of bias if I don't get a question from the back. So please put your hand up. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a question for you about politics, really, regarding the regime in Germany. Do you think that any country, if pushed enough by economic and political and social circumstances, can do what Germany did? Or do you think there was something unique in the German character that drove them to what they did?
It is unique. It is unique. It's unique for a number of reasons. The uniqueness was a building of Auschwitz and Buchenwald and so on. The uniqueness was of having people, tradesmen like the Jews, killing them rather than having their material goods feeding their own army. Don't forget, by killing my father, somebody was sitting without a saddle. By killing the fair maker, somebody was freezing to death in Russia. Their policy was building factories to kill people. And that only, in my opinion, only the Germans can do. It can be massacres. Armenians were killing, the Turks were killing Armenians, or now massacres take place, but not of such a thing.
So,
At what moment did you know you were saved, and how did that feel like? And if you could compare it to anything else that we could be able to...
They didn't sing and they didn't talk. When the Russian army came in on the 4th of July, they were just, the people who came in, they begged us to let them go forward. Because when the first Russian army came in, we thought, of course, kissing them and not letting them go, holding them back. But between us, between the 1,230 survivors, there was no joy, as we know what we are going to find in our little Stettlach.
the truth is, we'll never know trouble in our lives like this, and I just want to thank you so much, Jack Kagan, for sharing all your personal thoughts and your history with us tonight.
Absolutely brilliant. My family is from Belarus, and I have family that was also partisans. My parents are from Minsk. My grandfather's fought in the Red Army, and I just thought, I think it's a story that not enough people know about, and I think it's absolutely brilliant that he gets up there and he talks from his heart about what really happened. Unfortunately, there's not that many people living who can still tell the story, so I think it's really important for all of us to hear this, and I wish him all the best. Big thank you to Jack and to everyone for CJL for putting on this event, because really it's just amazing. So thank you.
After seeing The Great Escape with Steve McQueen several times, he actually said all the things that were just amazing, and this time it wasn't just for Hollywood, it was actually for real life, and it was just mind-blowing what they achieved on just a slice of bread a day, and the courage, it's just, you just can't imagine it, just going on for years that they had to survive, and yeah, I just remember this always. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Thank you.
An amazing story. I first heard about it in the Ray Mears programme. We did a programme about survival about the people that lived in the forest. So when I heard about this talk from a friend, I was really intrigued to hear about it firsthand. And it's quite an amazing story. And I think the main thing is that however bad you think your life is, or how many problems you've got yourself, you've got to put it all in perspective. Because if you can live through that, then it really says to me that I'm going to easily just, carry on. It's kind of gives an inspiration.
It was an excellent presentation, and especially interesting for me. I've been privileged to have been born in England, of parents who were born in England, but to realise what some of our brethren went through abroad during the war, and how brave he was, and how he was programmed to live. He's just an inspiration to us. I thought it was amazing. And I think the loveliest thing was that it shows you if you do have the basic will to survive, you can get through anything. I thought that was the most important part of what he told us. To find somebody so inspirational, despite the horrific background that he had to go through when he was just a child. Very inspirational.